This is not necessarily the video I wanted to come back on, but it is the video I will come back on. I said early on, I said at the end of the elections, meaning in the congressional elections, that we were going to be in primary season. And primary season has indeed begun. Bernie Sanders released this. This came out in the mail. Let's see if I can flip over to this. Sometimes my browser looks a little weird. There we go. All right, this, and oh, I'm back home now. I can. All right, give me 1 second, guys. My when I was abroad, I had to do this in a different way. There we are. Fucking hey. All right. So right here, this was a letter released by Sanders, and just to give a summary, Wall Street Democrats, as Bernie Sanders coined the phrase, and I actually like the phrase, Wall Street Democrats have released attack ads on Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders hasn't even said he was running in the presidential primary, but they've opened up a front in Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada. If I'm not mistaken, Nevada is a place where they lied, saying he was throwing chairs, and the media ran with the narrative, even though there was no video and nobody could attest to the fact of chairs being thrown. What did happen was they outright cheated him and stole that particular state from him. That's what I remember of Nevada. Nevertheless, Bernie Sanders hasn't even announced a candidacy of the race yet, and they've already started to attack Bernie Sanders and the lefty agenda in 4 states, attacking ideas like Medicare for all. Personally, after traveling for all that time, and with the issue that's associated with my mom right now, Medicare for all is a low bar of a ticket to ride. Meaning, if you're going to get even my eye, like if I'm even looking in your direction, if there's even that, Medicare for all, yes, is a red line of support. That is a low bar of support to even get my interest. And I suggest it should be for anybody who's going and putting somebody in that office. Do you realize 70% of the population is on board for Medicare for all? And if you have somebody who considers themselves to be a Democrat and is attacking the idea of Medicare for all, that person should get an X. I don't give a shit if Satan himself is running across. That person should get an X, meaning no. Nevertheless, they're attacking Bernie Sanders and lefty ideas. So take a look at the letter. I'm not going to read the entire letter, only parts of it. Whenever I'm asked for running to president in 2020, I answered that if I am the best candidate to beat Donald Trump, then I will probably run. That is the truth. Okay, that's a little epic, but okay. If I am indeed the best, then like George Washington, I would get into the race. Right, fair enough. So right here. If that happens, the political, financial, and media elite of this country will stop at nothing to defeat us. Now that part is not necessarily false. Because you must understand, just like Jeremy Corbyn in the UK, there's some degree upper ends in apple cart. You have people who are, obsequious to wealth. You have somebody who's not accepting money from anybody other than his donors, meaning regular human beings giving small ticket donations. That's somewhat of a sea change, at the very least, from the standpoint of control. So what they will do is try to divide us with attacks, some old, some new, and our political opponents will spend obscene sums of money on ads to defeat us. That part is absolutely true. I just did not expect the attack ads to begin before I even made the decision, but they have. Essentially, they've started attacking us. Right now, a group of Wall Street Democrats known as the Third Way is running ads in early primary states, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, and Nevada, calling me out by name and saying that our ideas like Medicare for all are the path to defeat in 2020. They not only want to discourage or defeat a Sanders candidacy, they want to make sure progressive ideas are not advanced by anyone. Essentially, they want to salt the earth. Now, there are a few things with this. I've said before that from the standpoint of corporate Democrats, Sanders is a worst case scenario, even than Republicans. After they lost the election, Nancy Pelosi comes out. I can't find the video, but Nancy Pelosi comes out and essentially says, look, after they get a load of Trump, they'll come back to us. With this idea that, it's kind of a revolving door. People get angry, vote out the next person, and we'll get our shot at Ticket the Ride. But what happens when all of these lefty ideas that people said were impossible, not were just possible, but were popular? I mean, understand the platform that Sanders is running on is not radical in the least. You're talking about 70% of the population is on board for Medicare for all. A majority of Democrats are on board for Medicare for all. An expansion of Social Security, education benefits, even climate legislation. Republicans do drink water, even though the climate change thing became somewhat of a political thing. When you go from this angle of a jobs program, it becomes somewhat of a more popular idea. I've made the point before that no, people will not get on board for climate in and of itself, but they will get on board for climate if it was attached to making sure that their job needs and their own needs are met. I guess my point is, Sanders is right in this, but it destroys the Democratic Party. Meaning, if the Democratic Party can't get on board for Medicare for all, can't get on board for Social Security, but these are the things that, from the standpoint of the left, are popular. What does it mean to be the Democratic Party when your party is not necessarily representative of the left? It means that you are no longer a leftist party. You're something else. Meaning, what it is to be a Democrat is purely comparative to what it is to be a Republican, and that is not necessarily the way to go about politics. What do you stand for? And what do you stand for should not be entirely relative to the other party. Just so we're clear on this, though, take a look at this. This person, Hillary Clinton, look at the faces, the tenseness of the jaw. Her rapist husband in the background, the failure, Tim Kaine, the embarrassment from Virginia. This person lost to this guy, who was a few years ago firing has-been celebrities on The Apprentice. He's a reality show host, failed businessman. He's filed bankruptcy, 6 times? This guy beat the stuffing out of this woman who was supposedly the most accomplished person in the history of the planet, that was put up by the corporate wing of the party that's running attack ads on Bernie Sanders now. And just so we're clear, the Wall Street Democrats and their standard bearer ended up with this map in 2016. This is a loss. This is a loss for the corporate Democratic Party. That's what this is. Now, some people may say that's sacrosanct, meaning corporate Democratic Party is the Democratic Party. Fair enough, I agree to some point. I mean, there's bright spots. But all in all, this is what happened. This is what the American public thought of your party, particularly your wing of the party. Let's get more granular. Oh, that's even worse. That's even worse. The trope that they like to throw out is, well, Hillary Clinton got 3 million more votes. Those votes all came in California. The corporate wing of the party was repudiated by the entirety of the American public. That's an embarrassment. Now, to some, they would take a certain degree of reflection on that and be like, hey, maybe we need to change and everything else. No, they're not paid to change. They're paid to try to get their people in by hook or by crook, regardless of what the American public want. In the same way the Republican Party tried to get their people in by hook or by crook, regardless of what the American public wants. If somebody like Sanders gets in, someone like an FDR candidate, it upends what is typical, you could say, orthodoxy from the standpoint of the left. And it's not a perfect solution, but to me it does move the ball further along the way than it would under normal circumstances. Needless to say, attack ads have started on Sanders. The primaries, you could say, have started. Sanders hasn't even announced his candidacy. One part about this, though, is they make the point that this is somewhat of a tease of a 2016 entry. 2020 entry. I don't know if that's a tease or not. I mean, it sounds more like these guys are attacking me already. I haven't even entered the race. Give me money. That's what it comes across as. But maybe. Needless to say, Bernie Sanders is being attacked by third-way corporate Wall Street neoliberal Democrats already. I don't like the monikers, but the monikers are a shorthand as an explanation. I don't like the monikers because people call themselves progressives. Anybody can call themselves progressives. Hillary Clinton called herself a progressive, so there's that. Let's see, who's here? Jamal, what about Jesse Ventura versus Trump? I don't know what Jesse's domestic policies are. I don't know what Jesse's domestic policies are. What I do like about Jesse is he seemed to be somewhat fearless. I mean, he's hit him on the wall. The 9/11 stuff, he's seems to be somewhat fearless. Let's see. Pet hacker, cryptic warrior. The X is the Greek symbol for Christ. Stop looking for conflict where there is none. Okay, people are fighting. 3 honorable people, no moral issues with the upstanding citizens.
I'm Sean. I'm a student back in Chicago.
What the
right now, my parents think they're coming to a movie.
Alright, I don't know what that was about. Democratic Party means nothing. Agreed. Happy holidays, Thomas family. Oh, thanks, Elephants on Coke. Cheryl Brandon, I hope you have a great Christmas and a New Year's. Oh, thank you. You and you're very surprised. She looked happy to see her son. Yeah, she was happy. She thought we were in she thought I was in Prague. She hit me up that morning, and I don't like lying to my mom. My only person who knew was my wife. Now, I was going to surprise her too, but I realized I needed somebody to get me from the airport, and it helps planning logistics when you're trying to surprise somebody. And so I get into Florida, and my mom is like, and one of those things, when I get back into the States, I hate it like nobody's business when I don't get a welcome home. I like to have a welcome home. Now, what I mean by that is the security guard. I like when the TSA agents look at the passport, sees that I've been gone, and says, welcome home. Now, if it's a welcome home son, fair enough. I even like that a little bit better. But I like it when it gives a welcome home. I didn't get a welcome home this time. It fucking sucked. The once before, though, the guy, he looks at the passport and says, welcome home, welcome back. It's like, oh, thank you. John Hill, look who's back. Sheepdog Bernie ain't running. Oh, John Hill. I don't know that. Clearly, they think he's a threat. Otherwise, they wouldn't be wasting money attacking him. And they think the platform is a threat. And for their standpoint, the platform is a threat. I mean, after all, they're paid by drug companies. They're paid by education places in order to not advance certain topics. They're paid by war industries. They're paid by all of these guys to make sure that their interests are seen fit at the expense of the American public. So, yeah, somebody like Sanders running would be a threat. So their attacks are on Sanders, but also on Sanders' platform. That's the other key point. It's not just Sanders. It's also what Sanders is pushing for. But this gets rid of the blue no matter who nonsense. I mean, the idea that you support any random Democrat. Do you realize that these guys were pushing Nancy Pelosi in order for PAYGO, in order for another thing, a Republican rule, not to increase taxes on the bottom 80%. Now, but they were doing this in order to kneecap lefty ideas like Medicare for all or education, things that would have actually saved the American public money. They were kneecapping for their corporate overlords, people putting money in their pocket. So, all right. Lesser of two evils. Sad state neither was, lesser of two evils. Why would you call yourself progressive? FDR was a bad person. Oh, God. FDR was a bad person. Look, I don't believe in this absolutes stuff. Bad person in the context of what? In the context of what? You act like that's an absolute. That's not an absolute. We need to keep it 100. Bernie sold out. I ain't voting for him. I am glad that you guys have this kind of superhuman integrity of sorts, that ignores all political will and all political wins. I don't have that level of superhuman integrity. In fact of the matter is, I look at Sanders as only a person. And as a person, that person makes certain decisions based on political will, political wins, I should say, like anybody else would make those decisions. There are some people who, no, may not have did whatever you think he should have done. But he's a person. I don't think anything else of him. I think he's a politician. So, just saying. Apparently, you can't see that Cuba still exists, provides health care and education for their people, although the United States did their best to destroy them. Yes, the United States did their best to destroy them. Get your yellow vest ready for 2020. Jesus Zamora, or Jesus Zamora. Yes, indeed, right? Like, I'm always amazed that the United States is so complacent. Like especially in comparison to France, who we would marvel at the benefits that the French get in compared to what we get. And French have set shit on fire. After buying into the Russian narrative and white helmets, I can't support him anymore. Oh, man. So the white helmets thing. Okay, fair enough with the white helmets thing. And I would even give you some credence to the Russia thing. Ish. I don't know. I guess I look at Bernie Sanders as a politician. And maybe, Bernie would never win. Come on. It isn't going to happen. The ruling class would never allow it. That part I don't agree with. That's quitter talk. Don't agree with quitter talk. I support universal basic income for working poor and welfare reform for many people that are on welfare that should not be on it. Agreed. McGovern, Louisiana, agreed. What is the difference between FDR and Nixon? Oh, God. If that's where you're at, we're not even on the same conversation level. We're not on the same conversation level. One, FDR came before Nixon. That's the difference. FDR was not involved in a criminal enterprise. That's the second big one. FDR was not going to be impeached. That's the third big one. I mean, we can keep going with this. FDR put forth the New Deal. That's fourth. Come on. It's nonsense. My biggest knock on Bernie is following the Russiagate narrative used to obfuscate the DNC cheating against him. Agreed. I don't really have a defense for that, other than he's a person and he was involved as a politician in what was essentially a political hit campaign. Outside of that, I agree. Show Brandon. New knowledge ran by 2 USA spooks who pretended to be fake news detectives who actually push propaganda. New knowledge ran by 2 USA spooks who pretended to be fake news detectives who actually push propaganda. He had a welfare reform bill under Bill Clinton. No one gets it anymore that they can't prove they are either going to school or seeking work, and it is very limited to length of time. We need a new Deal. Yeah, but the question becomes, what happened to the last New Deal, right? And if something happened to the last New Deal, why are we pushing for a new Deal? Or at the very least, any new Deal needs to take into account of what took place for the last New Deal and make up for its failures. Venezuela was never truly socialist. Sure, some elements of socialism, nationalizing the oil industry, but from side of those key elements, you still have plenty of private enterprise. Yeah, the media organizations. People keep calling this a socialist country. There are elements that are socialist, but the media itself is not, you have private enterprise in that. It's like, come on. See Jimmy Dore, Jamal, about new knowledge. Cyber firms started NSA spooks. I check it out. New knowledge released a report about how Russia brainwashed all of those gullible black people. Oh, I see. Fair enough. One person from New Knowledge is banned from Facebook. Really, no joke. I'll check this out. Yeah, check this out. Alright, guys. I'm going to end this here because this video wasn't meant to be long. I'm going to have a slate of shows for today, so Rob Lenoy's, what's happening, man? Did FDR sign a Clean Water Act? For some reason, you believe that just because FDR didn't do everything that you wanted FDR to do, that somehow FDR was an evil person. That is nonsense. That is nonsense. We need a Star Trek-like economy. Yes. I had a really good conversation. I met a gentleman, I'm not going to reveal his name, but in Germany, in Berlin. He was a subscriber of mine, and he said, "Hey, let's go out. Let's have lunch or dinner, if you're free. Let's get drinks or something." I was going to a show that night. It was one of my last few nights in Germany, in Berlin, and I went to a show. And after the show, him and I met up at a bar that he frequented, and between essentially a pack of smokes and several tequila shots later, we go into this thing of, the economy needs to change, but the question is, how do you change it? And what does it look like to get to that change? And the best of minds who talk about new economies in this way don't have the path to change. Because what they honestly don't necessarily want to engage is shit has to fall apart in order for something new to take its place. Nobody likes that. That's uncomfortable for people to engage because you're talking about things being set on fire and people going hungry and these kind of primal instincts taking place. But it's like, how do you make a change like that? Zane Jamerson, what percentage do you give Sanders winning the Democratic primary? It seems that he has 0% chance of winning because it's rigged, but I will still vote for him anyway. A 0% chance of winning. I don't have... Look, I would agree with you that these guys have won against Sanders to rig the primaries. But a 0% chance is... Maybe, to me, the rigging isn't necessarily as overt as I think you think it is. But a 0% chance is amazing. Like, you give him no chance. It's like he has no chance of winning the primary. Well, look. If you think he has no chance of winning the primary, then the question becomes, who takes over? Who wins? And does that person have any chance of winning the general election if Bernie Sanders is cheated again, which will be the second time he's cheated? Now, Bob Ramirez has joked me saying that Bernie Sanders will turn around and support Beto or Kamala after being cheated in this primary again. I don't know if that's true. And I don't know what the percentage is, if I'm being honest. But I don't know. But yeah, Democrats are horrible. I don't know. I have no other idea of supporting any other Democrat as opposed to Sanders running in the Democratic Party. I am Bernie or bust. That's where I am. That's where I was last election. That's where I am in this election. Do you think Kucinich could run again? I don't know, man. I like Kucinich, bow like a leopard. I like Kucinich. I hope Kucinich runs again. Kucinich was fearless. I liked him. They're already slacking the deck. I know they are. They will cheat him. They will smear him on corporate media. They're doing that already. But it's a primary. Like the cheating part, take the cheating part out. That's a nonsense. And when Sanders kind of made that argument that he expected to be cheated, fuck that. I don't expect to be cheated at all. I'm not that cynical. Where I would just take cheating as, well, this is just kind of part of the process. Nonsense. Cheating's not part of the process. That needs to be called out. Will they cheat him again? They will attack him viciously. Yes. Cheating, depends on what you mean by cheating, but probably yes. But that's not necessarily a reason not to support. In fact, the matter is mass support, I would argue, is somewhat of an answer to this stuff. Sanders will support the candidate 100%. Oh, God. They never stopped smearing him. No, they never did stop smearing him. And they're doing it now. They're not going to stop. All right. I'm going to end this. Thank you, John. Thank you, Zane. I'm going to be back. Kucinich will face the same problems Bernie did. And that's without taking into consideration that Kucinich has been smeared in his past runs. Oscar Santana. That's true, by the way. They hit Kucinich. I remember they asked Kucinich an alien question in the debates. Do you remember this? Kucinich was running and they asked him, I think they asked him, did he see a spaceship or something? It was a weird question that he froze up on. I think it was him. I saw that too, Bo. Did you see the reports that Bloomberg declared $100 million investment possible in campaign? Yes. That should bug the shit out of people. There's billionaires buying elections. It's a billionaires buying fucking elections. I'm going to put $100 million into an election of somebody. I say let them smear Bernie. It proves how afraid they are. Peter version 1, that I agree with. Like, the attacks on Sanders to some degree gets across that they consider Sanders a threat. If they didn't consider him a threat, they wouldn't attack him. If you remember, in the first election with Clinton, they ignored Sanders. Like, they were even buddies up until a certain point. Up until the point where Sanders started winning primaries. At which point they were like, all right, the buddy stuff is over with. Yeah. For all intents and purposes, they consider him a threat, which is why they attack him. That's what it boils down to. Yeah, he does claim he saw a UFO. Yeah.
Ready to connect.
I mean, but mind you, a UFO just means I saw something that I can identify. People always associate it with aliens. It's like, I saw a UFO. That guy said he saw an alien. No, he saw some craft in the sky that he couldn't necessarily identify what the craft was. Alright. Adam Nation. Bernie missed his chance for the stake through the Democratic Party in 2016 by running as an independent. I disagree. Ditto through 2011, but he's a sheep herder. Oh, man. So the sheep herder thing, I've used myself. So yes, fair enough. Fair enough. He's a sheepdog. He had his chance to put a stake in the Democratic Party in 2016. That I disagree with. That I greatly disagree with. Like, we've had, back in 2008, yeah, let's start there. Back in 2008, you couldn't even get Barack Obama to mention single-payer healthcare. Understand what we are. You could not get Obama, let alone the Democratic Party, to bring up this idea of single-payer healthcare. So Medicare for All was off the table. The best you could get was a public option. And even with the idea of a public option, within first few weeks, that was tossed overboard. Nobody mentioned it again. And even going worse, they even put in the penalty, which Obama, during the primaries, said he wouldn't implement. So, just from that standpoint, you couldn't even get public option on the table. And right now, you have all of these hack Democrats, I agree with you, signing on to Medicare for All because they believe that it is a red line. It is a something that they must support. Otherwise, they wouldn't get the votes of a certain degree of people. That's a plus. That's a positive. That's a movement within regards to the Overton window. That's a change. I'm sorry. That's a sea change. Now, the question becomes, if Bernie Sanders runs as an independent, what happens if he loses? Did you ever gauge that? Like, the assumption here is that Bernie Sanders runs as an independent and he wins. Yes, if he wins, he puts a stake in the Democratic Party and he creates something else. If he loses, he is considered Ralph Nader, and they would look at him and say, you're the reason why Hillary Clinton lost, as opposed to Hillary Clinton being the reason Hillary Clinton lost. The precedent that I'm using for this is going back to after FDR. When FDR ran his race, William Wallace. I always fuck up the name. Oh, it's Wallace. Whatever it is, the last name is Wallace. Runs in the race, even though he's one of the most popular politicians in the United States, and loses. He loses magnificently. Now, I use the precedent for that because I think that's a good comparison between Sanders' popularity within regards to how people see him or perceive him and like his ideas, while simultaneously being skeptical of third parties. The skepticism of third parties is ingrained going all the way back to when people were children, going up to when people are older. It's not that I think it's impossible. It's just that I think it's difficult. And I think the risk on this is if he loses. That's all. William Wallace 2020. I don't think it's William Wallace. Henry Wallace. That's it. Henry Wallace. That's why I'm not going with William Wallace. I knew it was something Wallace. Henry Wallace. Look, my point is this. The ideas that the Clinton wing of the party was putting forward were magnificently denounced. This map is damning. Look at this. This is fucking embarrassing. That is utterly embarrassing. And in that particular situation, what Sanders was putting forth, Hillary Clinton lost on her own merits. Not because of Sanders and anybody else. She's ran around the country trying to blame Russians, Comey, Sanders, but for the most part, the public looks at this and says, she lost on her own merits, stop trying to blame somebody else. I like that. I like the fact that she lost on her own merits. And I also like the fact that what Sanders pushed forth as his platform has become a tip of the spear in regards to people running across the country. No, it's not necessarily a win in terms of legislative sense, but it's been 2 years. I mean, come on. Oh, we didn't get everything we wanted in 2 years, so Sanders lost. No, it doesn't work that way. It's a fucking chess match. It's a war. Wars aren't necessarily won purely from the standpoint of the battles that they fought. Those things are fought over the context of a long term. I'm just saying. Just saying. I agree with you that he's a sheepdog. Fair enough. And in his mind, he believes in this kind of two-party politics, even though he's an independent senator from Vermont. Again, fair enough. He's playing the game that he believes he needs to play. Sorry, won't vote Republican. Yeah, voting Republican is insane. Vote for something, not against the vote. Agreed, Adam Nation. Agreed. Vote Republican is, it's like you're ejected out of the Democratic Party, so you go and vote for the other party that's just as bad, if not worse, who's also fucking you over to a similar degree. Yeah, no, not so much. Not so much. Ruth Ryden. Bernie is the most popular politician in the United States with twice the support of any other candidate. Stop putting the idea in people's minds that he will lose. That is a self-fulfilling prophecy. He can win. Ruth Ryden. Thank you very much, Ruth. Thank you very much. I have support here. Wendy Simer. Socialism for the people is already convinced they will fail without it. Suckers. I don't know what that means. Bye for real this time. See everyone around. All right, Pat. Have a good one, man. Rand Paul 2024 Trigger Wolf Blitz. I love that. Don't blame me. I voted for Kodo's Simpson episode. That's funny. All right. I'm going to end this time. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through PayPal or Patreon. I will see you back in a few minutes, probably about 10-15 minutes. Thanks all.